2 free throws for 60. A 60-point game for Kobe Bryant.
What a performance. What an exit for number 24. You couldn't have written this.
45-50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
Step back. Walker. Cardiac Kimba does it again. UConn wins at the buzzer.
Leading by 3 as Boone hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series. Boone, a hero in Game 7.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 6 of the Spire Podcast, where we aspire to inspire you. I'm your host, Tyrese B, and we have another special guest. My special guest has his own company called Creatitive, where he's worked with many professional NBA organizations, professional athletes, and many more. Welcome to the show, Zachary Colman. How you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing good. Trying to stay busy.
Oh man, I completely understand, especially with holidays coming up, and, in the year coming around. We're going into a new year, so I completely understand. But with that being said, let's start from the beginning, man. Where are you from?
I'm in I'll just say Phoenix area, since Phoenix tends to be the whole Maricopa County area. But I'm located in the Chandler, Arizona area. So Phoenix.
That's great, man. Love Arizona. I've been to Arizona a couple times. I've been in Phoenix. I've been in Tucson. I've been to the Grand Canyon multiple times. Plan on going again soon when this COVID stuff clears up. But yeah, man, I love Arizona. Love the state of Arizona.
I've never been to the Grand Canyon.
Wow, man, that's pretty crazy. I can understand, especially with the COVID stuff going around, but whenever it clears up, I definitely recommend that you go and check it out, man. It's a great experience and a great sight to see.
Oh, definitely. I have a son now, 17 months old, so I'm starting to get into that parent mode where all the things that kind of go away kind of come back.
Oh, wow, man, I didn't even know that. Congrats to you, man.
Thank you. It's been a rough year with raising a 17-month-old and running a business, but definitely a blessing. I'll tell people that you don't realize it, especially as a father, you don't realize it until after they're born and they start growing up a little bit, that you're like, oh man, I love this little guy.
Wow, man, that's great. I wish you and your son the best in 2021, and hopefully it'll be a great year.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. So, Zach, let's talk about your childhood, man. How was it for you growing up in Arizona?
Well, I didn't live in Phoenix my whole life. I mean, the Phoenix area, my whole life. I grew up here till around 5th or 6th grade. And then, me and my family moved up, where, if you're from here or not, but we grew up in the Prescott area. So it was a very small town. So honestly, there's really not too much to do there, in such a small town. But these days, I think that, it's, a lot of people say that, no, everyone just thinks about Phoenix as this huge Sahara desert. It's not. Arizona's very actually pretty good range of different environments, if that makes sense. And, we have mountains about 2-3 hours away for skiing and snowboarding. We have, we have hikes all around here. We have, the prairie, like I said, smaller towns have the prairie. So a lot of the stuff I personally try to do, and this year, of course, has changed things up a bit, but, the gym if possible, but with right now, a lot of it's just been running and going to, me and my wife, and pretty soon my son, we can hike the mountains, and there's a lot of nice activities in the area from that aspect. And, since we live in Chandler, which is very small, it's not small, but it's smaller than the Phoenix area. There's still quite a bit to do here, and everything's pretty much a mile away, so, we have soccer fields. I, play soccer quite a bit. So still, indoor soccer and outdoor fields with pickup games and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a pretty good area, I think, for staying active.
Yeah, man. Most definitely, man. Arizona's a great place to play sports. With that being said, Zach, what was the first sport that you participated in when you were young?
It's funny, and it's usually part of my story. I mean, because I never became I was never a professional athlete myself, but my dad, my father, way before I was born, he played in the NFL for about, not too long, for about a season. He jumped on a couple of teams. He was a kicker. And so I grew up, and my father was always prone to say, hey, I want you to be a field goal kicker. So I want you to learn your ball handling skills. So he really forced me to get into soccer. So since I was, a young kid, about 3 or 4, I played soccer all the way up until I graduated high school at 18. And that was my first, that was the main sport that I loved playing. And, honestly, I just got to a point once I got to college where I was, sadly enough, I was just too intimidated to try out for the football team, just because I never played in high school. I always wanted to, but my dad told me he wanted me to wait until college because of that soccer circumstance. And, at that time, I, just didn't really want to become a kicker. So, but yeah, soccer was the first one that I got into. I was never an offender. I was always a defender. I love playing defense. And it's funny because I tell my wife right now with our son that our kid's going to be a little middle linebacker because of his body type and who he is and who I was. And I mean, I still play rec soccer to this day, and they're with my muscles and the way I look, I just always get carded because, I'm a pretty rough defender to get through. I'll just say that.
And that's good to hear, man. That's great that you're still playing indoor soccer. I used to work at a rec place, so I know that rec sports can be pretty competitive.
Yeah, I enjoy the running. I think that it really helps me get my hit workout in for the day, and it's especially indoor soccer. Like I went back and forth between indoor and outdoor, which indoor is a different beast in itself because it's a straight 40-minute no rest kind of scenario, and a lot of running back and forth and no timeouts and our runoff time and no out of bounds and stuff like that. So it's a different beast in itself. And I haven't played probably, sadly enough, I had to take a break from it when my son was born, and with everything going on, they've kind of shut that stuff down. So I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that by March time I can definitely get back into it.
I hope so, man. I hope you can go back to your team next year, and hopefully you guys can bring home a championship. Speaking of rec sports, do you take rec sports seriously? Are you very competitive in rec sports, or you just do it for fun?
I mean, to me, it's all fun, and there are certain people sometimes on a team that take it over the top, and there's sometimes people on the other side that want to injure you, and it's like, I'm 35 now, man. Like, I'm not out here to get injured, I'm not out here to spend money on a broken leg, so there are some times that it gets frustrating. But it is funny you say that, because about a year and a half ago, me and my friend went back to our high school because they did a pickup game with the high school team, and some alumni, and so we played against the high schoolers. And I will tell you what, man, it's a whole different beast. I went there expecting the world, so to say, when we went out there on that field. But I'm like, man, I've realized how much speed I've lost just by playing the reaction time when in high school compared to playing on now. It's definitely a different beast.
Wow, man, that sounds like a great experience, being able to go back to your high school, playing the new team that they have, and even seeing your old coach. But with that being said, I wanted to ask you, what was your most memorable experience playing in high school?
Oh, man, that one's a hard one. I mean, I would say the most memorable was the connection of the team and going on the trips in the bus, probably across state. We went to state a couple of times, and so it was definitely fun to, go on those trips in high school across. It was new, it was exciting. You stay at a hotel room with friends and stuff like that. So those would probably be the most memorable when it comes to, is probably more of the trips than anything. But I would say that my most memorable was the one score. I'm a defender, so I usually don't score. And right. A couple seasons ago, I had my first, my first goal in the playoffs, actually, which isn't usually my job, and that was pretty nifty. That made me feel good, since my job is to usually keep people from scoring and not scoring myself. So that made me happy.
Wow, man, that's a great story. I've had a couple of friends that have played soccer at state as well, and they've told me the same thing that you've told me, that their experience was great, and that's something that they'll never forget. So,
Yeah, we were the same as you, man. Our football team, I hear now through rumors, through the grapevine that our football team has gotten a lot better. I really don't go back to the small town too much because my parents, one of my parents still lives there, but the other one moved, and so I don't go there too much. But I do hear stories of how they're doing better. But for us, it was always our soccer team. I think it was our soccer team and our volleyball team. I think our basketball team made it a couple times, but yeah, our soccer team was the highlight of the school. That's for sure.
Definitely. So before I get into the topic about you and your time in college, can you give any insight to the youth or anybody that's in high school right now about how they can make themselves a better soccer player?
Yeah, you know what? And it probably goes a lot. It's college is going to be a little bit a different beast than high school, and college is a little more similar to um, being a professional athlete. I think that one, don't be intimidated. I still look back and wish that I, still at least tried out some way, form, or another. Hit off that bucket list. But I would say just be very self-conscious of when you go to college. I think that college is a time to explore and have some fun. But at the same time, if you're really dedicated to the sport, really pay attention to, and I know PR and the way you promote yourself and your personal brand is not really that huge of a deal. They don't really think about it that much in college, but it's probably really a good time to start. Even if you don't know if you're going to go professional or not, it's a good time to start really promoting yourself as a person, more so from a positive aspect, and making sure that everything that you're kind of doing on social media and the way you present yourself is just genuine. And I think that that's what it really comes down to. If you're gonna as you move forward in your career, even if you don't become a professional soccer player or a professional athlete, life has stages. And if your goal is to play soccer now or playing and move up to professional, don't neglect your college classes. Make sure that you're using college for what it's really meant to do. And what I always tell people is, college is really meant for, having someone teach you how to teach yourself. And that's what's great about college. It's really good to have teachers kind of help you teach how to teach yourself. And that's really what school is meant to be. If you have this perspective of your sport as well as what you do passionately for school, and you can somehow combine those, that's what that's what always makes a great professional outside the game, is someone who has two different knowledge bases that they can kind of mesh into one. And make sure that you don't, take your classes for granted.
Wow, man, that was some great advice. That I wish I would have gotten some of that type of advice when I came into college. But it is what it is. But let's talk about your college career. So you went to Northern Arizona University. You graduated from Arizona State University, and then you also went to Cornell University. So how was that experience like going to college?
I went to NAU for Northern Arizona University. It was kind of a smaller town, like where I was from. I went there for about a year, and honestly, I just didn't like it. Like, honestly, I wasn't much of a Northern Arizona University is much more of and we'll just say from a party perspective, was much more of a drug area, if that makes sense. And that wasn't really my scene. I was, I enjoyed going out and having different kinds of fun. And so I thought, I'm not going to do it. I moved to Phoenix with my one friend I was telling you about, and I was going to move with him and some other friends. Ended up only moving down here with one. And I didn't know what I wanted to do for a semester. I kind of dabbled, and I was going to go to the Art Institute for Video Game Design because I just had that creative personality, and realized that I didn't want to be 35 years old and making video games. And so I ended up going to ASU and saying, you know what, I'm just going to get back into their graphic design program there, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I thought it was better than doing nothing. And I loved it. I loved it. It was a lot more research based. It was 2 years of fundamentals, which a lot of people thought I was crazy. I mean, I would sit down first semester and they'd have us cut out a bristle board. And if you were with an X-Acto knife and a ruler. So we had to learn for mock-up purposes, how to cut things out and stuff. And everyone was like, "You're crazy. That's what you're doing." But if we were 1 millimeter off, we would have to redo it. So we literally spent like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, just cutting out these perfectly square Bristol boards, making sure the paint on them was correct. And so it was less so artsy and much more learning the eye of design. And so I ended up doing that and ended up, graduating during the first recession back in 2010. And it was very hard for me to get a job. And I moved up in there. And, as I was going through the corporate world, we also did some web design classes while I was in college as well, learned basic HTML and CSS. And so I really got a knack for web development being in CSS. And so I opened a side business, which at the time was Colman Design, just focusing on doing websites. And from there, I that was more of a hobby and a side hustle kind of situation. And then around 2015, I really started realizing I wanted to get out on my own. I had bosses, but all my bosses, nothing against any of them, but I just sometimes thought I could do it better, and the way that they just managed and the way that the items they wanted, they just had no idea, so how to market. So I ended up going to Cornell and getting and learning to get ahead of any sort of competitors I would have. So did that in 2015, and going out on my own.
Wow, man, that's a great story and a very that's a great story and very relatable one, especially to people right now that's graduating through COVID times. But as you said, it's cool to see that you've grown your business from where it was at the start to now where it is now, Creative. So it's just good to see that you've been growing your business and being able to become successful in this field.
Being a business owner has a curse. You have the curse of it's never good enough kind of thing. And I think kind of like Gary Vee always says is you have to enjoy the journey, that the journey is what you have to enjoy more than anything, which is kind of true. And it's funny because I see so many other companies out there that focus so much on gaining clients, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but they don't really focus on the processes as much. And, me having a design background, I think I had an advantage over a lot of these marketing companies. Nothing against not just marketers, but I would say in any profession. I'm like, you're in journalism. So, I think it's a subconscious thing that happens to everyone. And I've seen it a lot with working with other businesses and other agencies is so I was talking to someone who does Facebook advertisement, and we were going back and forth, and they're like, "Oh, I just hire cheap designers." And I'm like, design's just as important as a good quality Facebook advertiser. And I'm like, they all need to be good at a specific thing. And that's how I do my hires. I always try to find people that are better than me. And I'm willing to pay them the money because I understand quality over quantity. And I understand that that's what I need to bring to my end users. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey, and it's still a journey to this day. And this year has definitely put a lot of stress on my mind. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree with you, especially on what you said about quality versus quantity. You want to have quality work so people can come back and see the stuff that you're doing, especially in journalism for me. So can you feel free to elaborate on that? What are your opinions on that? Do you feel like most businesses are not doing that, or they just want quantity over quality, or what do you think?
I feel like there's a mix. I feel like, yes, they say these days, you need to have this much content out there. Business is a journey. And honestly, you have to, and not to get into the nitty gritty of it, but you have to look at expenses. You have to look at this. And I say the same thing to my prospects. I have prospects that come to me and they're like, I do Facebook advertisement, or I do a pay-per-click advertisement, or even SEO services. And they're like, I spend, $300 to $400 a month. And I actually feel bad I blame the marketing company they're working with, because I feel like it's a disservice to tell prospects, hey, you know, $400 a month is going to make you $1 million. Because that's really what they're telling the clients is, hey, you spend $400, we're going to bring you enough business to make $1 million. And it just doesn't work that way. Business doesn't work that way. And I'll have clients come to me all the time and our prospects and say, hey, can you give me a guarantee? And I use COVID as an example now. You know, I'll say, well, if I give you a guarantee in March and then COVID happened, yes, we're going to do our damnedest to help you get around, you know, communicate with you. But I'm like, we don't do guarantees. The people that do guarantees are the ones that you're going to get screwed by, because those are the ones that are going to try to show you quick results and then move on. And those results aren't even going to be as good as they could be in the long haul, you know? So I do feel like there's a stigma now with social media and stuff like that, where it's really meant for you to do it yourself. And we're kind of pushing that direction. We're kind of getting to the point now where, you know, working with athletes in general, we do social media management. We will manage players' accounts and we will manage them, but we'll be straightforward. I'm pretty straightforward with most of my clients. And I'm like, you know what? Social media management organically isn't your best route. That's more for brand awareness. Like, why don't you let us teach you with a marketing coach how to post and what to post, since you can't really afford this, and let us just teach you so that you can do it yourself. And then in the future, if you're at that point where you're ready to spend 10 to 15% of your income on marketing, then come to us. And so I will tell prospects all the time, like, hey, you know, honestly, I don't think that you're in the right spot to do this yet. Maybe you should still be dedicating your time to make money instead of using your money to save you time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree with you, especially on what you said about you don't want to, if you're not doing it right, don't do it at all. So that's some good advice. But let's talk about your business, Creative. You know, what do you offer? What do you guys offer? And what new ideas have you came up with to make your business better? Hey, y'all. Thank you for listening to the first part of this episode. If you would like to finish our episode, please go to our website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor by clicking the links down below. If you are new as well, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. Until next time, stay safe and stay inspired.